Well, it's about 5 after 6, so I think I'm going to go ahead and get. So we got a smaller group today, but that's okay. This is a good sized group, and if you don't know already, we've been recording these, so it's a great opportunity. I tend to think a lot of folks with some of these Zoom meetings it's almost going to be like binge watching television. Like when the new season of Stranger Things comes out, people just binge watch it. And so I think I wouldn't be surprised if I end up doing about 5 or 6 of these campfire stories if somebody at a later date just ends up watching them in succession or when they need it the most in some capacity. So before I get into the story, just like I did last time, I want to talk about just an overriding topic. Last time we talked about Challenger, with this being in challenging times, and then we got into the starfish story. Now this week, I really want to talk about relieving anxiety, stress, and depression. When I talk about anxiety, stress, and depression, that's almost a very ambiguous topic in of itself. So I'll kind of give you some examples. So when we talk about anxiety, it could be at two different ends of anxiety, just where my hands are right now. This might be a very low end of anxiety, or this could be a very high end of anxiety. And with everybody that's watching this right now, you might be on the low end, you might be on the high end, or you could be anywhere in between those two areas. And what I'm really trying to reference is that there's some anxiety, and it's manifested in some capacity. So where are you at? Now, all of us are trying to get to that low end as best as we possibly can. Or when we talk about depression, you could be very depressed or not very depressed, or anywhere in between. And depression is a funny thing, not funny ha-ha thing, but funny in the capacity that it might mean that you're not sleeping regular hours, or you're not sensing purpose, or you're just missing people in some capacity, or your life is in a position where it's just not, where it's running as optimally as you would like for it to be. And so we all go through that in different intervals, but the question is, how do we get to that good side of the tree? How do we get from the higher side down to the lower side? And I want to share just 3 or 4 really quick examples of how you might be able to manage if you're feeling any anxiety, if you're feeling stress, if you're feeling depression at this time in your life. One first example I'd like to share with you, this helps me, is just the mental health benefits of being outside. All right, when we talk about depression, or anxiety, you just want to fix it right off the bat. You almost want someone to sprinkle some magic dust or wave a wand and just give you a solution, but it's not that easy. You can't always just will yourself. But if you try to take little small bite-sized pieces out of that anxiety or that depression, for example, if you were to go outside tomorrow, I know in Lafayette, Indiana area, it's supposed to be 80 degrees. There's science, there's actual research on this. If you spend at least 15 minutes outside every day, it does something to your brain. It actually does something that helps re-engineer it to think more positively. We were built to be outside. It's only in the last couple hundred years that we built these dwellings, we've had this technology that we just stay inside on a regular basis. So going outside could mean, it could be work oriented, which doesn't always sound fun, but it's being outside, right? So you could do some landscaping, mow the lawn, pick weeds, something along those lines. But let's not stay with work. Let's say going outside is going to be pure pleasure. It could be just going out, laying in your lawn, looking up at the clouds, and just enjoying the breeze. 15 minutes, that's all I'm talking about. Now, if you want to do it longer than that, go for it. But set your clock when you go out, so you have at least 15 minutes. It could mean taking off your shoes and just feeling the grass in between your toes. Or if grass just isn't your thing with that texture and touch, take a blanket, go set that down. Nice, soft, comfortable blanket, something that just feels really good to your touch. And lay down or sit down. With your 15 minutes, you could close your eyes and you could just smell. See if you could smell the lilac bushes blooming. You can see if you could just smell just anything that's familiar or unique. Maybe someone's cooking or grilling out when you're doing this. Or instead of smelling, you could listen. And here's my challenge for you. If you do that 15 minutes tomorrow, I want you to try to find a minimum of 10 different sounds. 10. And you might find that some of the sounds are going to be like Abby's squirrel outside her window, or it could be a lawnmower, or it could be a neighbor talking or working on something. Or they might just be sounds of nature. You might hear the birds chirping, or you might hear other wildlife in some capacity. So 15 minutes outside will help. Won't maybe fix it, but it's going to help get you where you need to be when it comes to anxiety, when it comes to stress and depression. Here's a second idea, a really quick, simple, super easy idea. Reach out to somebody you haven't talked to in a while, maybe a year, maybe a month, and tell them you're going to read them a story, or you can make it up. You could just dig out a children's book out of your archives, like The Giving Tree or The Little Engine That Could. Say, I'm going to read this to you. We're going to spend 5 to 6 minutes, and I'm just going to read it to you. It's my gift to you. But at the same token, I'm getting something from it too. Because by reading this story, it's honoring me to give the opportunity to be able to give something, which just feels good. When you're giving a gift, you feel good too, right? Not just the person receiving it. And so it doesn't have to be somebody that you haven't talked to in a while. It could be somebody that's very close to you too. It only takes 5 minutes of your time, and what you're doing is re-engineering your brain. You're getting rid of some of that anxiety, some of that depression, some of that stress by reading that story to someone else. Here's a third thing that you can do to alleviate that stress. Simply forgive yourself. In some cases, we beat ourselves up more than anybody else on planet Earth. And you say, what? You know what? It's okay. It's okay that you're in a bad spot. I forgive myself for that. And just feel maybe a little bit of that weight lifted from your shoulders. And then to express gratitude in some capacity. Just to look for 3 things in your life where you can exude some joy. What are 3 things that maybe are good in some capacity? So forgiving yourself and finding a way to express gratitude in just a very small, simple capacity. Last but not least, one thing that always helps me when relieving anxiety, stress, and depression is a project. Okay? The project sometimes can be huge and daunting. It's like, I need to completely re-engineer my whole closet. That's a big project, and that might create more stress. Instead of the whole closet, just stick with one drawer or one area, one little spot. It's almost like if you're putting together a puzzle, instead of digging out the 10,000 piece puzzle, dig out a 32 piecer. That's all you need to do. Focus on the 32 pieces. If all your garbage is collecting in your house, you don't have to get out all of your garbage. Just stick with one waste can that's closest to you. And when you get done with that one waste basket, you've got a victory. You can check off that box and say, I've done something good. And I feel just a little bit better. And so I'll reiterate those again. The benefits of being outside, just do it for 15 minutes. We'll do something to your brain that's going to help you out. Reaching out to somebody and read them a children's story. You're giving them a gift, and it's giving yourself a gift as well. Forgive yourself. Forgive yourself and express gratitude in some capacity. And last but not least, a finished product, doing a small task. A small task that when you're done, you're like, I did it. Congratulations. I feel a little bit better about myself, and maybe I'm willing to take on bigger tasks as time moves on. And that will move you from the high level anxiety and depression more to the low level of anxiety, stress, depression. Because it doesn't necessarily, we wish it would. We wish we could go right from here, right to there. Sometimes it just takes a little bit of time to get us back to where we want to be when we started. And that leads me into the story that I'd like to share with you today. Now, this story takes place many, many moons in the sky ago. This takes place in a very special, remote Indian village. And in this Indian village, there was a chief. This chief was very wise, and he ruled the nations for many, many moons through the sky. And had a lot of respect amongst the nations. But there was also a young brave by the name of Tracker. And Tracker was renowned throughout the 7 nations because of his ability to be able to track really any animal in any location. And he used a lot of different techniques over the years. For example, he learned that if you took the grass and you plucked a few blades and tossed it in the air, you could sense which direction the wind was blowing so that you would know if you were upwind or downwind from the scent of the animals. He also was very careful to walk. He knew that there were sticks and there were leaves and things on the ground, so he would walk heel to toe, very slightly and very carefully, heel to toe, heel to toe. And he would be able to kind of creep through almost like he was invisible, like nothing or anything could hear him. And they also learned how to master the art of using the deer ears. He noticed the animal had different gifts that they were given, and in particular with the ears of the deer, they pointed up, and they could even rotate in different directions. So if he cupped his hands around his ears, he noticed his hearing was a little bit different. It could be a little more refined. So over time, he marveled at these different abilities to be able to track different animals and became, as I said, just very well renowned throughout the nations. Well, as time passed, the chief began to get a bit older. And Tracker was starting to think, I think that I could be the great chief someday. Look at all the things that I've done for the nations over the years and all the respect that I have amongst these folks. And it got to the point where Tracker not only aspired to be the new chief, but he was growing a little resentful in his heart. He was growing a little bitter and felt like wasting these prime years, I should be leading. The great chief should step down. And so one night he was lying underneath a great pine tree and he had his arms kind of stretched out right against the base of the tree. And he was listening. He was very quiet. He could hear up in the tree above him, he heard this chirping. And so very stealthily and quietly, he grabbed onto a branch and then another. He climbed higher upon the tree until he came upon this nest that was resting on the end of a bough or branch. There in the nest, he peered inside. There were just little tiny infant birds just chirping away. And so he reached inside the nest and he cupped one of those birds and he had an idea. A thought came into his mind. So he put the bird back into the nest and crept on down, and he went back to the base of that tree and he decided he was going to do something. It was time for him to be the great chief. The great chief's time has passed. What he was going to do is when the great festival of the 7 nations would gather together 3 moons throughout the sky from now, he would go up amongst the crowd and he'd come up to the great chief and he'd have this bird in his hands like this. So only a few feathers kind of showed through the cracks of his hands. And he would go up to the great chief and he would say this. He would say, "Oh, great chief, is the bird in my hands alive or is it dead?" Now, the great chief, if he responded to say, "The great bird is dead," he'd open his hands amongst all to show that the bird was alive and well, and the great chief would look foolish amongst the nations. If he said, "Oh, great chief, is this bird alive or is it dead?" and the great chief were to say, "Well, the bird is alive," he would squeeze his hands and crush the life from that baby bird and drop it at the feet of the great chief, once again showing the great chief was not wise. He shouldn't be leading the 7 nations. Regardless of how the chief answered, he would look smarter than the chief, and it would be apparent amongst the nations that it was time for him to be in charge. So a few nights passed, and as he pondered each night, kind of refining how he would do this, finally it came time for the great festival. And an amazing festival it was. They had all different types of foods. They had all different types of people that they had not seen in a long period of time. Just a lot of celebration and the stories that they shared, all the different adventures that they'd been on, whether they be hunting or overcoming obstacles in some capacity. And finally, it came time for the great chief to speak amongst the nations. Everyone got very quiet until there was a murmur at the very back of the crowd and they saw Tracker. And Tracker had his hands just like this. The only thing that they could see from Tracker's hands is that he had something that looked like they were feathers peeking out through the cracks of his hands. Tracker made his way and he kind of brushed by different people and he came up all the way to the great chief and he very boldly said, "Oh, great chief, is the bird that I hold in my hands alive, or is it dead?" There was just a silence after he said those words. The great chief didn't respond right away. The great chief scratched his chin. He just gazed at Tracker, looking right into his eyes. And finally, he responded. And he said this: "Tracker, the answer's in your hands. It's as you make it." And then he repeated it again. He said, "Tracker, the answer is in your hands. It's as you make it." And for a moment there, the crowd was a bit confused. What did he mean the answer was in his hands? It's as he made it. And one by one, they began to realize that Tracker held the decision of whether that baby bird lived or whether it died. Tracker held the power of whether he would open his hands and the baby bird would see life, or he made the decision of whether he squeezed the life from that baby bird and it didn't survive. Well, Tracker realized the great chief had answered in the perfect way, in a way he couldn't have anticipated, and he felt shamed. He'd embarrassed himself, and he hung his head low, and he walked back amongst the crowd. But partly what made the great chief great is that he realized that Tracker would eventually be a spectacular leader, and that this was just a mistake. And he worked with him, and he helped find him. And he tried to teach him that the character of a person isn't when they make a mistake, but how they handle themselves after they make a mistake. Because everyone in the nations would make mistakes. That's what made them human. But what defined your character is how you handled yourself, how you owned that mistake, how you chose to grow from it. So over time, the great chief did step down. And Tracker did become the next great chief, learning those life lessons, learning humility, learning how to lead by serving and not being served. And he was a great chief for many moons that passed through that sky in the future. So when we talk about the answers in your hands, it's as you make it. I'm going to go back to where we kind of prefaced. The relieving anxiety, stress, and depression. Again, these are items that are human items, and we deal with them in different manifestations. And I'm going to use our Kings Island teen trip as an example. You know, there are no roller coasters at that park that are flat and level. You go through them. What makes them exciting is that there's peaks and there's valleys throughout the whole roller coaster, and our life is representative of that. And even though it's been a month that we've had a lot of this quarantine, for a lot of you, it feels like it's been a year or longer. Very difficult. But like the roller coaster, it's a valley. For the moment, it's a valley. And it will change to the point where you're at the top. You're going to get out of that valley, you're going to hear the click, 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 and then you're going to be at the top again. And then you're going to raise your hands. You're going to be like, whoa, because you're going to be in a better place than maybe where you're at right now. And the ways that we can do that, shifting from the high level anxiety to the low level, could be by going outside for 10 to 15 minutes, helping it re-engineer your brain. It could be by reading a story, just a children's story. The best stories on the planet are children's stories, everybody. They got great messages in them. They just got really simple, good messages that make us feel good about ourselves and life in general. You're giving a gift to someone else and by giving yourself a gift as well. And again, it could be by forgiving yourself, just simply looking in the mirror and say, it's okay. It's okay that you're down. It's okay that I said yesterday I would make some changes and I haven't yet. You'll get there. I have faith in you. You're going to get there. And by expressing gratitude in some capacity, finding 2 or 3 things, joyful things in your life, that you can just be grateful for. And last but not least, working on a finished product, even if it's a small project. You need a victory. You need a check mark in your column that says, I did it in some capacity. For some of you, if you're really down, it's getting up and brushing your teeth. That's victory. For others of you, it might be a small project. Again, that 8-piece puzzle, the 32-piece puzzle, before you get into the 10,000-piece puzzle. You'll get there. Just know how much I love each and every one of you, how proud I am of so many of you, and honestly, how honored I am to be associated with you in some capacity. You know, Gracie, the fact that you're on here, the fact that we got Abby Smith in the family. I know Michael Jordan, Austin, you're on here as well. And just to see my peeps, Virginia. Hey, there you are. Virginia, it's been forever since I've seen you. So I'm so happy to see your face. And I know I get to see Val and Abby often, but I love you guys like family. So it's just always good being able to see you. Kelly, we've known each other for how long, my dear? I mean, we've known each other longer than most, if not all of these campers that are on here are alive. And Whitaker, I still remember like a 10-year-old version of Jason Whitaker coming up to me like he was a 22-year-old being like, how's it going, Koop? And I remember saying, oh, good. He goes, yeah, been really busy lately. I'm thinking, who is this 10-year-old kid talking to me like this? And just picking on you about how John Deere is not as good as New Holland tractors, and just watching your reaction. So, and Susie Mills, you know, how I didn't really know you as well at Tecumseh, but now I've got that wonderful eclectic blend of having you from the Tecumseh years and the Hoosier Burn Camp years, and how we're connected in this capacity. And I'm assuming Mama Koop's my wife. I hope you're doing well in quarantine over there. I miss you. I hope we get those test results soon so I can hug you and be back together with you too. So, and there's other folks that are going to be watching this later. Know how much I love you. I want to be there for you. Go outside, listen for sounds, feel the grass in your toes. And I can't wait till we're together again. That's all I got.
I'm outside every day, Koop.
What's that?
I'm outside every day.
Good man.
Be outside than inside any day.
I'm telling you, you're smart, because men and women have been around for over maybe 100,000 years. You know, how many of those years have we actually had houses? We've been outside. We were born outside. We're supposed to be outside. It's good for you. So good for you. It's a good thing. You're a step ahead and smarter than most.
Yeah, I love nature.
Exactly.
Same.
So, anybody else got anything going on? You got anything? Tell me one thing you're looking forward to, or you hope to have planned this weekend.
Yeah, Grandma.
Anybody got something? I'll tell you one thing. Go ahead, Susie.
Sleep is what I'm looking forward to. Not working and sleeping.
That's a good feeling.
I'll second that one.
Yes. Some of my favorite weekend plans are like no plans.
Oh.
I'll second that one. We've got one more good push in the fields, and then we'll be done planting for the year.
Good for you, Jason.
Oh, nice.
Good for you. How about you, Gracie? You got anything planned?
Not really, except for next weekend I'm probably going to go to my dad's Chuck's for the weekend.
Ah, nice. Nice. It's awesome.
So yeah.
I think I'm gonna have a fire in my. I have a fire pit, you know, a portable fire pit. I think I'm gonna have a fire in my driveway tomorrow evening, and have a nice little socially distanced fire with a friend or two. So it'll be nice.
You know,
Yeah.
Eli had a really good idea the other day. We've got a gas fire pit on our deck, and Leslie made this chili recipe that I'd given her a while back, and Eli's like, let's just go roast some marshmallows out on that, or not marshmallows, some hot dogs, so we could have chili dogs too.
Oh yeah.
It was fun. It's just fun going out and cooking those hot dogs over the flame just for a few minutes. And, you know, only took 5 to 10 minutes, but it brought joy to our hearts. So it's a great idea.
You know when burn camp is going to be?
You know, that's a good question. You know, Abby and I actually were on a call with, I don't know how many other camps are present on that call. You know, Abby, maybe at least.
No, I think there were 14 total people, so I don't know how many camps that represented, but
I'm gonna say, let's say about 7 or 8, roughly. There might have been a few more or a few less, Austin. But one of the things that we were on that call with, and this is the 3rd week in a row, we've been connected with other camps in other parts of the states, and we're all asking ourselves that same question: is, you know, how will we have camp? You know, what will camp look like? I know some of them are doing virtual camps. In other words, they're not going to get together face to face, but they're going to basically just do a lot of things like this throughout the course of the week. We, on our end, we're hoping to salvage something. It's going to be later in the year. Like, we're hoping to make something happen, maybe sometime August through October. But even if we do make plans August through October, we're not really sure what each month's going to look like, right? You know, because we just hit the 1st of May today. And so a month from now, the very 1st of June, and then July, and then August, we might find that we aren't able to get back together August through October. But we're going to think optimistically as best as we can. We're going to try to make some plans to see if we can make something happen. And hopefully, instead of a May camp, we might be able to do something a little later in the year. But time will tell with that. There's a lot of things that need to be figured out, and we got to be able to ascertain if we can do it safely. Because the most important thing to me with all of you is that you're safe and that we're making good decisions that will put you in a best position so that we're not only getting together in 2020, but so that I can see all your faces in 2021, 22, 23, 24, and beyond. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But stay tuned. Keep looking at our Facebook pages and otherwise, and eventually we'll have more information for you. It's a great question. Any other questions? Well, what do we got coming up, Abby? I think we've got time with Taylor on Sunday, and then we got a bedtime story on Wednesday.
yeah. Taylor, is there anything going on at tea time that
Just USA theme and weird, wacky questions again, so it'll be fun.
nice?
I love it.
Yep. Yeah, and then if you want to, you know, pump some iron. Well, you're not really pumping iron, but work out on Susie and Gracie were both there on Thursday.
I can't move. I kept going, why does my abs hurt? And I'm like, oh, we did planks.
Oh yes, and
Yeah,
Everybody
hurts.
listening to that, ignore Susie. She feels great.
It felt really good, but
good sore, right? It's a good
yeah,
sore.
it's a good sore.
Yeah. So.
I also sat on an office desk for like 7 weeks and not really moved. So I'm probably not a good example of.
On the second, the third time it gets even easier.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. And you do what you can, and then you know you'll do more the next time.
Yeah.
But it's kind of a fun time to just kind of be there and hang out with everybody and feel good. So I think that's what we've got coming up next week. And for Jason, a week from Saturday, we've got the alumni little social. We'll see how that goes.
That'll be
But I think that's
Cool.
the upcoming week, and be on the lookout too. I'm gonna send out kind of a survey to find out what you guys want to see and when you guys are free and all that kind of stuff. So hopefully we can grab some more people and connect you with all your buddies too. So
I'm
exactly.
excited.
yeah. I think that's what we got.
All right. Well, thank you guys all again for tuning on in. This was a great opportunity to be able to, I love those stories. I'm sorry. I hope you guys love them as much as I do, but whenever even when I say them to myself, and I've been doing this for a lot of years, I get a lot of value and meaning out of it. And it helps me with my brain too. You know, it is as I make it. So my goal moving forward is to do my very best each and every day, and just love one another, support one another, reach out to people in your life that can help you. realize that roller coaster of life does have peaks and valleys, and you're going to be on the top of it. And get up to that easier side of the tree at some point in time, hopefully sooner than later.
For sure.
Awesome.
All right. All right. All right. Well, I'm signing off. I'll see
Bye,
you guys.
guys.
Bye,
Bye,
guys.
everybody.
Be good,
Bye,
everybody.
See you guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Have a great weekend. I'm going to end the meeting in a few seconds. It's so hard to say goodbye.
Not goodbye and see you later.
There
Yes,
you
see
go.
later. Have you seen that video that's out lately that's like at the end of every Zoom meeting and it shows people just keep waving and saying goodbye? On their Facebook page, because that's kind of how it's been, isn't it? So, all right.
Yeah.
Well, hope to see you guys all soon and have a great weekend.
Bye.
You.